pagka sinasabi ko yung mga former senators, recto, and so on, parang nalulungkot ako. Dahil yung ating Senate at Congress, circus na. Di ba? We have comedians, artists, hindi na yung mga intellectuals na mga abogado na marunong talaga gumawa ng batas. Bakit ganyan ang nangyayari sa atin? So, Father Noel, pareho tayo, nagtataka. Bakit ganyan? Ang sagot dyan, PCM. Tandaan nyo, ha? PCM. People's Skills Movement. Hindi yung constabulary military, hindi yun. By the way, I'm a retired executive of a machinery company selling farm equipment, Mitsubishi engines, rice mills, Jetmatic hand pumps, plywood equipment. And I was the past president of AMDA, which stands for Agricultural Machinery Manufacturers and Distributors Association. I was the Secretary General of the AMAP, or the ASEAN Agricultural Machinery Federation. I am also the present chairman and director of a realty company and a marketing company. I've been active in the Antipolo Parish, head of the Pilgrimage Committee, and my secretary is there, Ms. Glodar. We have organized pilgrimages all over Luzon. And pretty soon we'll organize pilgrimages to Visayas and Mindanao. And I'm an EXCOM member of the PCM. Okay. Hindi EXCON ha. EXCOM member of the PCM. And my hobbies are paint. I love to paint. And my daughter there is also a painter. I have also another son who will be coming later. He's also a painter. And then my grandson will be coming here. He's not a painter, okay? But he plays the saxophone, the trumpet, the guitar, and so on. No? Now, in my case, my other hobby is I play the saxophone and the piano. Pero we have a musical genius dito. Nasaan ba si Manu? Yan ang talagang idol ko in the field of music. Talo ako. Mas magaling yan. Okay, so that's my self-introduction. And papaliwanag ko po sa inyo yung paano papaandarin itong ating programa. Pwede ilagay dyan. Yung flow. Nandiyan ba? Yung flow of work. Flow of the activities.
No, still. Po.
Before that, I'd like to emphasize the theme, faith and hope. Why faith? 85% of our fellow men are Christians. Okay, we have evangelicals, we're Catholics, we're born again. 85%. And hindi naman to include exclusive. We also include the Muslim brothers as well as the, tribal members of our community. Now, if you remember our Lord's Prayer, ang sinabi doon ng Panginoon Diyos, our Father, di ba? Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. I repeat that. Thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. Ibig sabihin niya, ano bang kingdom? Peace, joy, and happiness. May I ask you, do we have that here in our country? Do we have real joy? Do we have real happiness when 40% of our people are suffering in poverty? So, pero, nandiyan ang ating faith, meron rin namang pag-asa. Merong hope. Ay, excuse me. Wala. Okay. Meron pang hope. Yan ang Christian virtue. May hope tayo. Sabi nga ni General, may hope. May pag-asa. Pero pagka kausapin mo kabataan, parang may sense of hopelessness. Meron ko mga kinausap na nag-aaral ng nursing. Ano ba ang ambition? Magtrabaho abroad. Okay? May mga magsasaka, anak na magsasaka, ayaw na magtrabaho sa farm. Pumupunta sa cities or they go abroad. So yung feeling of hopelessness, and there is a brain drain, and sometimes there is no pride in being a Filipino. Pero ang utos ng Diyos sa atin, we have to bring the kingdom of God on earth. And so we have to have hope. This is a necessity because when Jesus suffered on the cross, 3 days after, there was resurrection. So tayo, may passion pa tayo rito, naghihirap pa tayo, pero tandaan natin, may pag-asa tayo. Okay. Now, I'll go to the objectives. Yung activity, Winnie, number 1 objective ng ating meeting or assembly. Number 1 is to gather old members. No? How many are the, hindi naman old. How many are the original members? Raise your hands, please. Original. Okay, yun na. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, 7. And we welcome the new ones. Raise your hands. Thank you for signing the membership. I think you have become new members of PCM. Thank you very much. We welcome you. Number 2, with the aid of resource persons, we will analyze the electoral process and ensure transparency. Okay? We have 3 resource persons later. I will introduce them to you. We will lay down the guidelines in choosing servant leaders to put into action the principles of good governance. And our beloved chairman will talk about this. And number 4, we will achieve Dream Philippines. We would like to have fair, honest, and peaceful elections. So, by the way, we have, upon registration, we have given you the commitment form. Okay. So, please fill that up, this one. Before you leave, we need your name, we need your cell phone number, your email address, and whether you're registered under Messenger, Viber, or WhatsApp. Kailangan yan because we would like to communicate with you, after this, and inform you about what's happening. And then we also have, merong nakadikit dyan. Yung small ha? Hindi malaki na envelope. Small envelope, ha? Hindi pwede dyan yung gold, no? Hindi pwede. Hindi namin accept. Yun lang, pwede namang, wag naman coins. Pwede namang yung bills, no? Pero walang amount. If you don't want, okay lang. Kasi dito naman, in cash, in kind, or depende sa iyong talent. Correct? Ito, pwede finance, pwede kung sa social media ka, o pwede kang sa immobilize sa ibang campaign activities, yun, pwede in cash or in kind. We have to continue on with our program, and siyempre, kailangan ng resources. Manpower resources, your time and talent, and of course, kung meron kayong ganun, okay lang yun. Ha? We will not, hindi namin i-reject yun, yung ganun. Okay lang yun. Kasi meron kaming gagawin magka-campaign kami. We will go to the mga fringes of the community and explain how to elect servant leaders. So it takes time. Pupunta kami dyan, ikot-ikot. Ginawa na namin yan ng araw. Okay. So after that, we will have a sharing of past experience, And an open forum after every speaker. The speakers will be given 20 minutes and then 10 minutes open forum after every speaker, hindi towards the end. Okay? And then meron nga commitment form. And I'd like to advertise, do some advertisement here. Si Mr. Rudy Malyari, who offered this venue to us. Thank you very much, Rudy. So, Mr. Rudy Malyari, merong sinulat na libro. Ayun, nakita nyo yung libro na yan? Sa labas po yan, 400 pesos. Pero nagbigay siya ng malaking discount. Para dito, 150 pesos na lang yan. It's about health, correct? Marami dito, 99% dito, mga seniors na. Kailangan bilhin niyo yan kasi para sa health niyo yan. Ha? Maraming ituturo sa inyo si Mr. Rudy Malyari. He's also a health enthusiast besides being a mass media practitioner. No? So, Mr. Rudy Malyari is selling that book, 150 pesos and 75 pesos goes to PCM. Okay. So, tama yung PCM, ha? PCM. Okay, ito ano na ba oras? Who's the timekeeper? 1:56. Mr. I think Bonifacio, Mr. Bonnie Macaranas will say something, a brief intro about PCM. Okay. Chairman Bonnie?
Maraming salamat. Kala ko hanggang 5 o'clock na magsasalita. Enjoy kami nakikinig sa... Alam nyo, ito si Hector San Victores. Ang specialty niya, saxophone. Hindi na namin pinatawag gamitin, baka puro saxophone na mangyari. At hindi si Manu. At alam nyo kung bakit pinili namin MC? Hindi dahil sa kung anong pinagkwentuhan. Maganda yung bigote niya, ba? Parang Jesus Christ. Kaya ito po the kingdom of God. Precisely when we pray our Father, we have to bring the kingdom of God dito. Yeah? Thy will be done on earth. Yun ang trabaho natin bilang Kristiyano. Aside from that, kung Kristiyano tayo, nilagay natin sa baptismal pledge. Diba? We renounce evil. If the president and vice president are evil, we should renounce them. Diba? Yes. So, ganun ang mission ng Kristiyano. That's what we expect from priests, bishops, to renounce evil, to talk about fighting evil. Kaya tama yung sinabi nito, kinuha namin may bigote. Ayos na ayos yung opening lines namin. Hindi namin alam na madaldal pala ito. Akala ko hindi na kami magsasalita eh. Nahirapan sila si Danny pumunta dito at si General Eli. Tapos, i-monopolize mo na yung salita. Nakompleto na yung message eh. People's Choice Movement. So, I'm very happy na nandito tayo ulit dahil it took time for us to meet you guys face to face. Because of pandemic, talagang malaking bagay na nahirapan kami makipag-communicate. Nag-zoom kami and we expect some Zoom meetings na mga 100 sana. Kung tumarating dyan sa Zoom namin, mga 4 lang. Kasi nakakalat yung mga... So we had this gathering to update everyone what we have been doing so far, including especially for the new ones who are to meet PCM today, para malaman niyo kung anong ginagawa namin. We have given our primer. I've been connected with so many other organizations, and I think our primer is pinagawa nung namatay na presidente namin dati si Ricky Xavier, namatay during the COVID, together with his wife actually, dahil hindi siya ata nag-believe sa vaccine kasi but he got these tablets and so nagari siya. If you notice what we gave the primer, sa likod, mukhang may dalawang patay na dyan, kahawak ng van. Yung isa, buhay pa. Okay? And kung ma-recognize yun kung sino yan, when he was about mga 40 years old lang ata. Ang naka-architect dyan yan si Aida, maganda yung ginawa ng flyer natin. What I'd like to do here is just to give a direction of what we have been doing, especially for the new ones and for the old ones. Not all that, hindi sinyo. Yung mga, basta yung mga a reminder of what we are doing. Kaya we wanted to meet everyone again to set directions for this coming election, especially and onwards, kasi yung malaking problema natin, which the three speakers will be talking about essentially, and they will give their own input, sharing insights on how we, as youth, as senior citizens, as people, as Filipino citizens, what we should do in the face of what we are faced today, a messy situation, especially for the past 7 years, including today with the kind of leadership that we have. So Winnie, I'll just go, actually it's in our flyer, but we just go through some important points. So we are generally open to everyone, every Filipino citizen, Christian or even not, to help out to come up with our dream Philippines. Gusto nating good governance dahil messy talaga ang buhay natin ngayon, especially for the more than 50% of our families, of our Filipino citizens who are poor. Preferential option for the poor. That's why we call ourselves interfaith organization. Okay? Pakimove lang, Winnie. And we came together since actually 2014. It's 2014. It's 2024 na yun. Napansin ko lang, 10 years na pala kami. 10th year anniversary namin to, in effect. Diba? And we've struggled. We thought we can have the Dream Philippines in 15 years. Pero mukhang malayo pang lalakarin natin. Sabi na ni MC Hector. Okay? And our starting point was actually the pastoral statement of the Pope. Hindi lang si Pope Benedict, pero si Pope Francis ngayon. Sinasabi ni Pope, if that is what Pope Benedict said, it's part of the vocation of every Christian to participate in politics in order to bring justice, okay, honesty, and deference of true and authentic values, and to contribute to the real human and spiritual good of the society of the Philippines. Yun ang point natin. Sabi nga ni Pope Francis, charity is the most important value because it promotes the common good. Engagement in politics is necessary to be able to come out with good governance and a good Philippines. You know, point. Kaya we felt we have to get together to do that. And just to think about it, parang 10th anniversary pala natin. We did know that. Okay. Next lang, we need just pass on. Actually, medyo maliit. You know what? Akala namin magagamit to, but this is out of order. So we have to bring that. Somebody had to donate to TV for this purpose among our members. We have to bring this up. And sorry, yung mga nandyan mukhang malabo, but anyway, this is what we have in the primer. Okay? We want our core values. We want God-centered. Medyo may, if you believe in God, then kahit papaano you try to live your life and your struggle based on Christ, how Christ lived. Honest, competent, committed, strong-willed servant leadership. Kasi karamihan ng government officials natin as explained by Mr. Vic Hector, puro olats. Magaling magkabayo, magaling magpatawa, and all these things. So we need God-centered, honest, competent, committed, strong servant leaders. Enlightened and empowered citizenship. That's why the past so many years we have been trying to reach out to priests, to bishops, to parishioners. We gave talks. We call it empowerment sessions. Good governance, common good, inclusive democracy, economy, and equal opportunities for decent life for all. Ito ang core values namin. And I believe that you came over to listen to us, to join this assembly. Essentially, we believe that you are in fact having this kind of core values in your hearts. Compassion for the poor. We need. This is our vision. A Philippines, a country run by competent, dedicated, and law-abiding servant leaders who will govern our country in accordance with God's teachings and principles of good governance, where people are enlightened, empowered, and live in comfort, dignity, and peace. Parang ito yung Dream Philippines namin, as stated also in our flyer. Okay, that's why we are involved in election, because we want to select, develop, and support competent leaders, servant leaders. And of course, along with this kind of mission, we would like to work in partnership with people's organizations in every barangay, every town in the Philippines, to develop, enlighten, and empowered citizenry, elect servant leaders. That's why we have to get involved in elections, participate and promote good governance, and advocate other just causes. That's why we also we are linked with other organizations like Isambayan, ANIM, PMTJR, Solidarity for Truth and Justice, because they have the same kind of advocacy to come up with a better Philippines, a dream Philippines. And of course, given whom we select as leaders, if they are worth the responsibility that they are carrying, we would like them, we monitor their kind of governance so that we can also empower the people to select only servant leaders for our government. Okay, objectives, yan na nandyan sa pan namin flyers. Next one, meeting. I'm trying to keep track of the time. We intended originally to have this kind of national board, etc., but given the situation, we have come up with an EXECOM, and these EXECOM members are the regular people whom we have come to meet by Zoom, especially for the past 6 or 7 years. It's only now that we are able to meet you guys and to set the direction going forward. Okay, just to emphasize our advocacies, truth and honesty, okay, in governance, national sovereignty and patrimony. Okay, we want people participation in governance, especially following the rule of law and the Constitution. We also we strongly support and promote and respect the promotion of human rights, whether it is labor rights, farmers' rights, women's rights, and all the rights that every Filipino should have to be able to live freely a decent life in our country. We want business practices that promote the environment and proper use of natural resources, of course. Fair distribution of land, except for the landless, and just labor practices, and of course, integrity of creation. We are very strongly against dynasties It's proven that the poorest provinces in our country is because of these dynasties. Okay. I used to teach in UP, a graduate school, and that's my main thesis. Poverty in our country is because of our dynastic leadership. Na-confirm lang yung ginawa ni Ron Mendoza ng Ateneo when he did very deep research on why the country is so poor. Okay? It's the dynasties ang kalaban natin talaga. That's why even the anti-dynasty law has not been passed so far because that's what they want, vested interests. Kaya we are against dynasties because they are cause of graft and corruption. Okay? They are in charge of monopolistic and oligarchic control of business opportunities, land ownership, natural resources, and very strongly nepotism. Diba nakikita natin in the TV, puro dynasty na yun ang fa-file ng candidacies. Sa Batangas, puro dynasty. Lubos. Mga apo, umaabot na sa mga apo ni Senior Marcos. Diba? Yan ang ayaw namin. Okay? So wants to join us? Anyway, anybody who is willing to abide by and support the vision and mission of the People's Choice Movement will join the group. So we're quite very often, very loose organization. Just to explain how we have operated this past 6-7 years. May tao kami sa Batangas, Lipa. 1 or 2 people have been working not only with all the other interfaith organizations, communities, but also even with the Muslim community. May contact kami sa Muslim community sa Batangas. I think yung representative namin from Lipa, Batangas, hindi pa nakaabot siguro, baka nasa on the bus. Okay. We have people in the Archdiocese of Antipolo. Nandyan yung may bigote, si Hector Iglo. They're trying to spread out the good news, the fight for truth and justice. And they have tried to walk to, especially reach out to the parishioners of every church. Yeah, and then we have, of course, we have Pastor Peps here from Pangasinan. Yes, and
Las Piñas.
welcome, that's
Las Piñas, Rory.
Doc Magay coming in. Yeah, so parang we have operated independently more or less to spread the good news of fighting for truth and justice in our country. Okay. Kasi sa amin manu sa Archdiocese of Novaliches. So parang gano'n ang operation namin. I'm with Sambayan, I'm a convener of Sambayan. I'm also with Solidarity for Truth and Justice and other organizations. I've given talk, I'm part of Survivors Hub, the survivors of martial law. And I've given talks to various schools, high school, explaining what martial law is and what we can do regarding our current situation in the Philippines. So that's what we have been doing so far despite this pandemic. May kasama rin kami kaso, kasayin mo rin ang commitment ko niya. Although that's not part of the, anong tawag yung sa dog, kasama sa military. K9, may K9 pala kami, volunteer. So, part of our Christian mission and vision. Can you, Vinny? Okay pa yung timing, ha? Yeah. Okay, marami na time na raw. So, as explained already by our MC, whatever talent, pressure, time that you wish to give us, that's all right to support us. Okay? Thank you very much. If there are questions later on, pwede. Yes, Mr. MC.
Thank you, Brother Bonnie. By the way, Mr. Bonnie is an alumnus of the outstanding Ateneo University. And I'm very proud na pareho tayo graduate. By the way, my name is Hector San Victores. Hindi San Victores, ha? San Victores. Okay? Hector San Victores. That's my name. And next time, don't call me Mr. Bigote. Baka makalimutan niyo yung pangalan ko, San Victores. Pero about Bonnie, si Bonnie took up AB philosophy sa Ateneo. And I think you joined the seminary for some time, no? Then he joined the private sector sa National Steel, no? With the administration, personnel and administration department. Then later on, he joined UP as a professor sa Soler, okay? Yung Soler, hindi yun yung casino, hotel lang. Hindi. Yung Soler is the School for Labor and Industrial Relations, okay? Hindi yung casino, hotel lang. He taught there for how many years? 15 years. Then after that, he retired, and now he is our chairman and president of PCM. Okay? PCM, People's Choice Movement. Anyway, he was, during the time of martial law, he was a very active, he was an activist. So, he was incarcerated and somehow suffered under martial law, and he is often invited as a speaker to tell the true history, to tell the true story of martial law. I think you have gone around so many universities and colleges, no, to talk about martial law. Okay. And you know why he looks fit? Because up to now he plays basketball with his grandson. No? Diba? Yeah. Okay. So that's Bonnie for you. Now we have to go to the next topic. We have invited Mr. Sonny Africa to talk about urgent issues on the national situation. Now, Mr. Sonny Africa is the executive director of Ibon Foundation. He took up philosophy and economics at the London School of Economics, and political science also with honors, also from the same school. Master of Science, Development Studies, same school. And he is the director of Ibon Foundation, which is an NGO involved in research, information, education, and he's active in people's movements. He's a board member of the Council for People's Development and Governance. He's also a fellow of CENPEG, or Center for People Empowerment and Governance. He worked before with NEDA, Legislative Office in Congress, and also a rural community organizer. He's a writer on socio-economic political issues, and these are all published by Ibon. I think Ibon was founded in 1978, and up to now it's still around. It comes up with important, valuable data about socioeconomics in the Philippines. So may I now call on Mr. Sonny Africa to make his presentation.
Maganda dyan. Mas maganda rin.
Nalag na ako eh.
Sorry po, magandang hapon. I apologize kung hindi po rin ako. Nakalimutan ko maglalabas. So, pag-meron sa inyo may mask.
Kumusta? Dito? Kumusta?
Sige.
Okay lang.
I think sobrang important yung opening mga introductions about yung
Kayo yung kaibigan ni...
Dito?
That's
Yes,
so
ma'am.
important right now kasi yung I
Okay.
think yung sense of
Ako yung
hopelessness tayo
nagte-text sa
comes
inyo.
from
Okay.
the problem being so big talaga. I think we all... Thank you.
Yan, ikaw na.
I'll put it na mamaya. Malayo pa rin ako.
Kasi ako kayo ng kapiling.
Yes, ma'am.
The sense of hopelessness comes from the problem being so big. And I think anytime Ibon's invited to give a talk on the urgent issues in the national situation, the
Nagtuturo kayo sa
tendency is, of
UP?
course, we're
Opo.
one research group,
Sa UP.
try to give
Dalawa na yung
a
professor
clear
natin dito.
picture of the legal situation.
Dito kayo.
And the thing is, the tendency is, if you show the facts, if you give a clear picture of the situation, people tend to get depressed, they get more disheartened, and they get even more hopeless. So, I don't want to avoid or sugarcoat the facts, syempre, because si Sir Bonnie, yung nititiraw kanina, said, let's focus on what we can do. But having said that, before we focus on what we can do, we should be clear about what the problem is. And I think the evil's attitude always is, we need clarity on how big the problem is. We have to step back to make the great leap forward. Kasi, parang ganito, cancer. Alam natin may cancer sa lipunan. Pero may iba't ibang cancer. May cancer na relatively mild, na medyo ma-manage, thyroid, stage 1. Pero may cancer naman, pancreatic, 4th stage. It matters so much ano yung detalye kasi kung di natin alam yung detalye, walang karapatang solusyon. And I do want to stress that point kasi it is depressing to see the problem. It is disheartening to think, oh my God, it's so big, the problem is so big. But dapat yung rallying call sa atin is na ang laki ng problema, we can't do anything about it. Kundi, ang laki ng problema, how can we be bigger than the problem? And sa akin, yung isang core message ko sana, I don't want to be so depressing with the presentation because it will be depressing. Pero ang panghawakan natin doon, the problem is bigger than each of us. But yun nga, ang nasa pangalan mo ng PCM movement, the problem is not bigger than all of us. And I think dun dapat bumula yung hope. We have to build our movements. We have to be part of something bigger than ourselves. So, super heroic yung PCM na ang daming pinagdaanan through the years, through COVID. Buti nga, medyo bata ako, natutuwa nga ako, medyo bata ako mo this crowd. I think maraming kailangan lagpasan talaga. But the fact that we're choosing to do something, doon nagmumula yung hope eh. And, you know, again, this is my extended apology for things seeming depressing. Pero ganun talaga. But yun nga, sa akin, alamin natin yung katotohanan para mahanapan natin ng solusyon. Nabanggit ni Sir Hector kanina yung usapin ng Marcos dictatorship, yung experience ni Sir Bonnie, being aktivista. Ito, super quick overview lamang ng tingin namin yung major problems facing the country. Of course, malaking problema yung
Ganda yun.
self-serving rule ng ating mga politiko. Whether it's dictatorship kay Tatay Marcos, or yung fake elite pseudo-democracy under the current Marcos, may problema doon. Ang katas ng problema, yung politika ng bansa serves a few. So by whatever form, yun ang I think that's something very frustrating para sa atin. Whether we're talking about the Marcos dictatorship, or the return of democracy, or demagoguery ni Duterte, or itong bagong populist authoritarianism ni Bongbong Marcos, parang nahuli palagi yung mga yan. I think it's so important to grasp that kasi hindi para malula tayo sa problema, but to grasp that's how deep and entrenched the problem is. It's not irresolvable, pero hindi natin. Pancreatic cancer to. Huwag naman. Ito may nahirapan dito sa pancreatic cancer. Breast cancer to. Na stage 2, para manageable. Hindi siya thyroid cancer na medyo localized. Hindi siya pancreatic na terminal in a lot of cases na mababi risk of survival, pero manageable siya. But we have to find out how unmanageable it is para alam natin ano yung solusyon natin. Sa amin ultimately, lalo na talking about the elections, mahalaga pag-usapan yung political system. Pero yung mga features ng sistema ng problema, I think yung mga black and white, mga Marcos era yan, like the 70s. Dynasties, sabi kanina, problem yon. Yung cronyism, kadikit ng dynasties, pero may own dynamics siya. Ultimately, para sa ng bansa, para sa mamamayan, yung continued exploitation. It's economic, it's structural, nandiyan siya. It stems from cronyism, it stems from dynasty. Pero the exploitation then by foreigners of Filipinos. And that's, magkabulbul yung mga yan. Last point, because may mga movements like us, may repression. Kumbaga, parang yan yung physics ng mundo eh. People push back against something. Those in power push back against that. So yung repression comes from that. So kung hanap ng actually urgent concerns, sa amin, kung summarize ng gano'n. Overarching problem, yung political system natin doesn't serve the many. Anti-democratic siya. May forms na in democracy, but what the F, di ba? Yung, nakita yung mga COC filing, mukha pa demokrato yung mga dinastiya? Parang hindi, di ba? Well, anyway, point ko lang, we have the forms of democracy, pero yung substance, nagkukulang siya. At part of the features of lack of democracy, yung dynasty synchronyism, is an underlying feature ng sistema ng bansa, yung exploitation sa ekonomiya, at yung pag-push back ng mga those in power to stay in power. Ito, papasadaan ko na lang, but I think it's so important to stress ilang mga datos eh. But I think, gusto ko na mag-start off dun sa, again, part ng extended apology. Malaki yung problema, pero nasa pangalan actually yung mensahe, yung People's Choice Movement. We have to choose to build our movements, build movements of the people. Siguro one thing I want to stress lang, let's not just choose in the elections. Kasi elections moment lang yan eh. At nakita naman natin with all the COC filing, kung lahat ng laban natin is just in that moment, matatalo tayo every 3 years when that moment comes around, every 6 years when that moment comes around. Kung gusto natin manalo sa halalan, hindi lang sa halalan yung laban. We have to build our movements even in between elections.
Yes.
Like nakita ko ngayon, yung mga nasa harap natin dito ngayon, yung laban hindi lang elections. Yung laban, pagpapalakas ng kilusan, even outside of the elections. So yun ang gusto ko i-stress, yun ang kalagan ng mga protest movements, yung kalagan ng civil society, yun ang kalagan ng people's organizations, yun ang kalagan ng groups like People's Choice Movement going beyond just the elections. Kasi kung akala natin, mapapanalo yung laban sa elections, talo tayo without even starting anything. Ito, super bilis lang, but you know, stress lang na may datos kami. Isang kalaban natin, I think, in disinformation administration. Ito, naiinis ako dito. Right before the SONA, si Secretary Recto nag-roadshow sa Japan. Sabi niya, super sip-sip. I think yung mga Japanese siguro, polite lang, comment. Pero ang claim ni Recto, since Marcos Jr. took office, the Philippines has consistently become an economic superstar in ASEAN. Tiger economy na raw tayo. Example lang yan, pero every time they go around the world, yan ang deal nila. So mega disinformation, di ba? Pero ano yung katotohanan? Kahapon, inulat lamang yung 1.9% inflation rate. Parang bumaba ng inflation rate. Pero tumataas pa rin presyo ng bilihin. Sa amin, bottom line, since umupo si Pangulong Marcos, dumami ang mahirap to more or less about 60%. 6 out of 10 families nagsabing mahirap sila. Dagdagan doon, more or less 1 to 2 out of families vulnerable sila. Sa pangkalahatan right now, even yung Bangko Sentral 2 days ago, sabi nila 7 out of 10 Filipino families walang savings. Yung sa isang kahit isang tuka, yun. 7 out of 10 Filipino families walang savings. May 3 out of 10 Filipino families medyo okay, middle class pay lahat na. Actually hindi na middle class. Yung middle class ko natin, maybe by our view na may kotse, may bahay. Maybe at most 15% ng Pilipinas na middle class. Ang point dyan, more or less 7 out of 10 Filipino families mahirap, vulnerable, naiiwan sila ng ekonomiya. At ang tanong, is it just because of dynasties? Partly. Is it because of the anti-democratic politics natin? Partly. But also it's because of yung problema natin dun sa economic policies being implemented. Ito, maraming charts, gusto ko ng stress dito. Isang policy framework na problematic, yung sinasabing neoliberal globalization, na inumpisahan ni Pangulong Marcos, hindi. Inumpisahan ng Tatay Marcos. The Marcos dictatorship, ang una nagbukas sa klimay natin, substantially to foreign investment, to foreign trade. Ang pinangako even ng 70s, let in foreign investment, uunlad tayo. Over the last 45 years, dumaming foreign investment sa bansa, yun ang kulay blue. Over that exact same period, bumagsak ang manufacturing pinakamaliit in 75 years, bumagsak agriculture pinakamaliit sa kaysayan ng bansa. So I'm sure marami sa atin dun exposed dun sa sinasabing mag-globalize ang Pilipinas, parang Manny Pacquiao, Lia Salonga yan, makipagkompetensya tayo, uunlad tayo. Hindi yun totoo. Itong nakaraang 4 na dekada ng globalisasyon, the economy has fallen to its smallest share of manufacturing in 75 years since 1949 and smallest share of agriculture in the country's history. Bakit mahal ang pagkain? Kasi bagsak ang agrikultura. Bakit mahal ang bilihin? Kasi wala tayong industriya. And that is not just because of dynasties. It's partly, it's not just because of yung anti-democratic system. Partly, it's also because yung policies na pinatupad. So kahit walang dinastiya, yung same policies atrasado pa rin tayo. Next slide. On the other hand, dumaming mahirap, dumaming nagutom, 8 out of 10, walang savings. Sa kabilang banda, lalo na since COVID, actually, richest Filipinos tuloy-tuloy yung pagyaman. Sa kwenta ng Ibon, there are about 3,000 Filipinos with at least 1 billion pesos in wealth. 8.1 trillion ang yaman ng 3,000 bilyonaryo. Biggest concentration yan sa 50 bilyonaryo, have about 3 to 4 trillion pesos. At ang pinakabayaman, nakatingin lang yung marami, glorify, humble, yung mga ganyan mga kalokohan. Si Ramon Ang, Manny Villar, Ricky Razon. Nandyan yung mga literally hundreds of billions of pesos sa paglaki ng yaman nila in just 3 years. Okay, so kung isuma mo yan, amazing. Yung yaman ng 3 tao na yan, individuals, hindi kasama yung siblings ng C, 3 Pilipino, may 1.5 trillion pesos. Nadagdagan pa yan in the last 2 years. Sa kabilang banda, yung kahirapan kanina. Corporations, mahal na mahal ng gobyerno corporations, kaya mahal naman ng mga kumpanya ng gobyerno. Bakit? Without doing anything. During COVID, nagpasa ng batas, binawasan ng corporate income tax. At a stroke, kasi walang ginawa mga kumpanya, apart from lobbying for the law, bigla na nagkaroon sila ng 120 billion pesos in additional profits. Kasi, binawasan ng buwis sa kanila. Pero sabi ng gobyerno, shit, nabawasan tayo ng buwis from corporations. Kaya tayo po ng pambayad ng utang. Tayo po ng better infrastructure. Tax natin, Netflix, Lazada, Shopee, digital services. At long-term tendency to, binabawasan ng buwis sa mayamang pamilya, malaking kumpanya. Dinadagdagan ng buwis sa mahirap at middle class. Why? Kasi ganun takbo ng gobyerno. Next slide po. Ganyan takbo ng gobyerno para sa ilan lamang because yung same corporations na yan, sila din yung nasa gobyerno. So, gusto ko nandito actually yung iba't ibang mga heads of departments, government officials na galing sa mga kumpanya. Ang pinaka-brazen syempre, pagbantayin natin for cronyism, yung Aboitiz family. Yung Aboitiz and Ang, nakikipagpaligsahan to be the biggest power generators in the Philippines. Malamang kayo sa hindi, after the Marcos term, Aboitiz na yan. Bakit? Because yung Aboitiz company, yung kanilang dating Vice President, yung dating Vice President ng Aboitiz, ngayon umuupo na dun sa ERC. Yung head ng SALM, yung privatization outfit, galing sa Aboitiz Corporation. Yung Secretary ng DOE, Board Director ng Aboitiz Corporation. So if anyone thinks na yung Aboitizes have the 3 most powerful energy positions in the government, pero hindi gagamitin sa kanilang interest, ang bait yung tao. Next slide po. Ito gusto namin i-stress. Actually, napaka-obvious yung link ng oligarchy, economic oligarchy, dun sa political oligarchy natin. Halimbawa lang, yung 3 naulat, 3 weeks ago lamang, the 3 richest individual Filipinos. Yung kay Henry C. kasi nahati dun sa mga anak niya. Ricky Razon, Manny Villar, Ramon Ang, 3 pinakamayamang Pilipino, nasa likod ng 3 sa 5 pinakamalaking political parties sa Pilipinas. Yung NUP, NP, at NPC, may hawak siya halos 40% ng senators, 9 out of 24 senators, over 1/3 ng Congress, over 1/3 ng governors. So again, pansin din natin yan, that actually is overlapping with the dynasties. Ito yung consistent. Ano man ang exciting spectacle between Marcos, Duterte, itong Partido Federal, o sino man yung mga parties nila dyan, may consistency. Ang consistent over the last 4 administrations, itong 3 parties na to have been consistently the single biggest block dun sa political system natin. And again, may maniniwala kaya na yung yaman ng 3 yan ay hiwalay sa paghawak nila ng poder sa politika? Of course not. Next slide. Yung dynasties, well, nilasa ko na lang dito, but in quick summary lang. More or less, I forgot na kung anong exact number, but 300 to 400 families, ito yung consistent na political dynasty sa bansa ngayon. Nilasa ko lang dito, right now, of course, looking back at the presidents, isa na naman yan, 90% of presidents come from political families, 80% of governors, 60% of senators, over half of representatives, over half of governors, ang galing sa mga political dynasties. So trending, that's been worse syempre in the last couple of years. Next slide. So, syempre, right now, pinakamalaki, pinakapangamalilihang political dynasty, the dynasty that dictatorship built. So, nakalisa lang dito itong upper part, yan ang lahat ng mga Marcos Romualdez in power, from the President, Senator, Speaker of the House, dalawa sa Congress, governors, all down to mayors, etc. etc. Next slide. And of course, I'm sure na mamuhan kayo nyo to, mula na mag-open yung file ng CSWs, di ba, good times for them. Whether it's the Dutertes, or the Villars, or the budding Tulfo dynasty, or the Pacquiaos, etc. etc. Ito lamang yung lumabas sa Twitter feed ko. I'm sure mas maraming dynasties yan, especially at the local level. So it's a problem, at ito yung question nga. Itong klaseng demokrasya natin, as it is now, ito yung klase ng mga politics na pino-foster niya. So kailangan din ma-address yung problem na yan. Next slide. Well, in corruption, this is the ranking of the Philippine corruption. Nasa bottom third of perception naman. Wala naman metric for corruption apart from perception. Bottom third siya ng countries worldwide. Next slide po. Ito, dito at more slow down a bit. Ito important talaga to eh. Kasi important yung electoral movement. Important talaga na yung progressives in power. Kaso, kung wala yung tuloy-tuloy na movement in between elections, pagdating na elections, walang movement na may lalaban yung elections. Wala yung movement para yung mapanalo, yung kailangan mapanalo. So important yan, parang muscle siya, di ba? If we want to flex during elections, kailangan practice tayo, not in electorals, every 3 years lang yan, with all the other daily political economic struggles. And I think yung dapat masapul natin, which is I'm sure nakuha naman natin lahat, movements are organized groups of people. Hindi ba yung spontaneous? May part na spontaneous, kaya kailangan ng organized core of movements, kaya may organized core of people coming together in important issues. And lalo pa sa kalsada, there's no way around it. Kailangan lumabas sa kalsada. Kaya natutuwa kayo tayo makita ko ng mga ultra seniors na nakikimarit siya. Kasi nasasabuling point, ito yung way to show those in power na handa tayo na ibago yung sistema. Handa tayo na ilaban yung ating mga issues. Next slide. Unfortunately, sa ganong klaseng laban, may counter-attack palaging gobyerno. At ito dito sa Pilipinas, I do want to stress, hindi lang sa Pilipinas gumagamit ng anti-terrorism laws or lawfare, tawag nila, hindi warfare. Hindi lang sa Pilipinas to. Globally, about 2/3 of countries around the world may iba't ibang levels of contestation ng kanilang pagkilos. Ang most common since 9/11, anti-terrorism laws. So naging very broadly used and abused yan to the point na United Nations experts have already said yung counter-terrorism laws hindi lang ginagamit against terrorists. Ginagamit against everyone na lumalaban sa sistema. So nakakatawa yun kasi nakakatawa. But it recalls lang yung time nung Philippine revolutionaries nung time nila Sakay, yun exactly sinasabi, mga bandido, mga terorista. Fast forward, ganun din nangyari din. Ina-abuse siya, hindi against real terrorists, kundi against everyone na lumalaban dun sa bansa government. Next po. Ito, again, just the facts there. The numbers are there lang to show constant ang political repression against democratic forces. From the Marcos dictatorship to the Sun, listing lang to ng mga extrajudicial killings of activists, frustrated killings, disappearances, arrest, threats, intimidation. Tuloy-tuloy siya. They try hard to put it down, pero the fact na nandyan is because hindi na talaga napuput down. Next slide. Ito, just put an important context din. We tend to look at things from our perspective, pero may larger context palagi yan. I think right now, we all know the larger context. US is backing one faction, China is backing another faction. And of course, that's something we have to navigate din kasi kung sino man manalong faction dyan, self-interested yan. The US wants control over the Philippines, not for Filipinos, for their own interest. Ngayon din ng China. And I think, hindi tayo conscious doon, natatangay tayo to think, saviors na naman ng US, and the same way, savior in China against the securitism, may problema on both sides. Next slide po. Jump na sa next. Ito siguro yung nirush ko na lang, but may nakahighlight naman ng urgent issues. Pero siguro pinaka-urgent para dun sa 2025 elections, yung kina Prof. Danny to elaborate. Sa akin may tatlo lang mahalaga for the 2027 elections. Of course, numero uno, kailangan matalo yung dominant Marcos and Duterte factions. Ito na po talaga na problematic. So the fact na sila yung worst even natin ngayon, all out talaga na matalo dapat yung Marcos and Duterte factions. Pero of course, all the other trapos, sana kung kaya natin. Pero unfortunately, not enough progressive, not enough resources, napunan yung 18,000 positions sa gobyerno. But number one, focus on the biggest enemies. Secondly, as much as we can, elect progressives talaga. And it could be at the Senate, it could be in Congress, it could be local government, but we do need those progressives in power. Yung last, I think so I want to closing statement, beyond the elections, let's build yung democratic mass movements natin. Kasi kung hindi lang tayo na pumilos come election time, we've lost the battle even that actually started. So quick view lang, I think sobrang important to highlight, kakaiba yung pag-launch ng yung Makabayan Block ng Senate slate nila. I can't remember, medyo bata pa kasi ako, I can't remember a Senate slate ever having that kind of democratic character. The fact na magkakaroon kang magkasaka, mangisda, urban poor sa Senate, can you imagine mag-iba yung timpla ng lawmaking? And I think that's one thing that's been missing. You have billionaires and dynasties in the Senate. Paano matatalo yan? By having real progressives from the grassroots in power. One point that I want to stress, ito I think is an example of how to build those movements beyond the elections. I could be wrong, inasadaan ko naman lahat ng mga Facebook pages, social media accounts sa mga other progressives running. It's only the Makabayan Block that actually had a 47-point electoral platform. I think important yun. Gamitin yung elections to educate, not just to win, but also to educate people ano ba yung kailangan baguhin, ano yung mga urgent problems to address, at maghapat ng solusyon. Yun lang po. Thank you.
Salamat dahil sa ano. We have 10 minutes. We have an open forum now. Sinabi every speaker, after every speaker may 10 minutes. Okay? You just, if you have questions, please stand up and state your name, and if you're a member of a movement, speak up.
Kunin nila yung table.
So, Mr. Africa will answer the question. Please. Stand up.
Kung wala, hindi na lokales.
Any comment on condition that
Ikaw kayo.
Yung tatlo kong kapatid, pinapapasok ng gwardiya. Sabi ko, hindi registered yan.
Pwede naman.
Kasama ko kasi yung tatlo kong kapatid.
Sana pinapasok mo yun.
Mamasyal sila eh.
Ah,
Sila yung
mamasyal
kasi
sila.
hinahanap namin to.
Ang daming naligaw.
Well, I think from the perspective of
Subitan mo na.
yung practicality,
Ah?
clearly practical move yun. I mean, they tried to check it out. Mukhang hindi nagka-traction, di ba?
Hindi pa nga naligaw eh.
We should grant them that in their
Okay, isang speaker
assessment in
pa
a
lang.
practical way,
Si Sunny,
they
pero ang
get
ganda ng
some
input.
level of power at whatever.
Meron
level
naman
of
kaming
political
record ng
power.
input niya.
So I think that is something that should be welcome. Having progressives anywhere in power. Having said that, of course, it's hard to get away from the feeling na it's a traditional political party.
Oo, umabot din. Ang
running
layo
the
pa niya,
party
Batangas pa
elections.
siya.
So medyo,
Jo,
um,
pag-aralan niyo tapos.
I think may
Tingnan niyo paano kayo
a bit of a question
pang matagalan
of
naman.
how they can maintain the moral authority
Kailangan manalo
to
tayo.
assert
Kahit
the
isa lang
party
sa
system
pwesto.
is for marginalized groups.
Doon kayo sa una.
They are marginalized politically, but they're not a marginalized group. So I think the spirit of party list law is in a lot of ways being violated by the Liberal Party running a party list group. If they set up a different party list group, I think walang issue dun. May-resolve yun. But the fact that it's a Liberal Party formation running in the party list elections, I think that raises a bit of a Pero having said that, in the larger scheme of things, ang daming problema sa political system natin. much bigger fish to fry. If the three win, it's a total, I think, sa Congress.
Sir, yung parang nawawala ng visa ang kasalan dahil problema sa project na babayaran. According to General, sa kanilang digital forensics, ay talagang free program na. So, ano ba naman itong campaign futile, dadayan, sayang ang resources. Ano po yan, sir?
Well, I'm sure makapagpaliwanag din ng mga speakers na ito. Siguro, ang gusto ko lang i-BN, lahat tayo, lalaban tayo based on yung sitwasyon. So, ang hindi tama sa atin, tingnan yung sitwasyon, ay matatalo tayo doon, hindi ilaban. Sa akin, ang attitude, we work with what we have, we work with the corrupt COMELEC as it is now, so kailangan meron tayong 59 million votes para ano yung pandaraya nila, hindi nila masapawan yun. But I think, there's no way around it. Hindi pwedeng sukuhan yung laban na yan, no matter how corrupt it is. Even though yung matalo tayo dyan, dapat ilaban pa rin yun. And of course, ingay point ko din, hindi na sa elections naman yung laban. After the elections, ilaban yung sobrang daming electoral reforms na kailangan ipalaban natin. Pero nga, just because wasak siya ngayon at basura siya, hindi ibig sabihin, hindi tayo mag-engage doon.
Tama.
No,
We really work with what we have. Okay, ako sa totoo lang, kung may democratic na paraan na may makuupo na hindi madaan sa halalan, okay ako doon. I mean,
Tama.
pero ano yun? Right now, ano yun?
Yes.
Doon sa question sa popularity, kasi ang marginalized palagi yung question sa mga very politicalized na grupo. So, ang issue dito is about, ang lipunan natin is, ang ng people ay subsub sa kahirapan. Yung black propaganda, red tagging,
UP professor din yan. Dating mari. Kasama ng
So, lalo sa yung staff, no? So, fundraise para
Tumakbo pa yan. Nagtuturo siya kanina. Malis siya ng alauna.
para natin siya labanan.
Baka nagtakas telepak.
Yung grace and values, the truth, social media, nagpapanahan. Kasi yung legal system, talagang ang kontrolado ng elite. Like for example, public system.
May post lang. Parang hindi na sila umahas.
So, ang issue dito is how to get the integrity of our people.
Ito mo sinabi din niya. Kahit
Parang
buka.
propaganda na
Nandun sinasabi niya. Movements of people. Maraming movements.
Yung patriotism.
Na hindi lang sa election.
Who will guard the guardian? Pero sa kapulisan natin, bulok, di ba? Yung kalahati sistema ay bulok. Especially that system.
Dapat hindi dito.
Yung corruption sa government, sa kayuda.
Kailangan
Kaya
bantayan.
si Enrique,
Hindi iyak.
how to get out of the hole of lies.
I think, kaya mahalaga yung movement eh. Kasi kung mag-focus tayo sa single parental issue natin, bahagi na ng problema yung maharap natin. So kaya sobrang halaga, population of 112 million Filipinos. Sobrang halaga, dandang libo, milyon-milyon tao, nasa isang kilosan para mag-uwinan. Bakit? Kasi kung 1,000 lang tayo, first at the start, pero 1,000 hindi malalaban yung sistema. Pero, kung 100,000 tayo, interesting.
Yes.
Kung 1,000,000 tayo, 10
Wow.
milyon tayo, yan ang movement.
Yan
At
ang
kung marami tayo, all those angles, pwede harapin. Pwede harapin yung disinformation with a social media war, with an air war, and
Yan,
fundraising.
JP.
Gasusin, may milyong piso para sa TV ads, para
Yan tayo
sa
papapil.
all the other ads. The propaganda war can be waged better kung mas marami tayo. At the same time, yung electoral reforms can be waged better kung meron tayong champions in government, kung meron tayong mass movement demanding reforms, kung nasa kasada tayo, pushing even the courts to decide better, the lawmakers to pass better laws. May nangyari yun. Pag election time, of course, kailangan ng voter education campaign. Of course, kailangan bantayan yung boto. The more we are, the more experts there will be na lilitaw to expose yung problem na yan. So sa atin, it's not a secret weapon but it's the weapon. A movement gives us all the options in all the realms of battle na ilaban yun. Kung konti lang tayo, we'll always start too small tayo palagi. Ang point is, paramihin natin sabihin natin, para lahat ng mga larangan na yan, pwede natin ilaban at ipanalo. Cumulatively, kung papanalo yan. Tama kayo, hindi lang actually one part yun. The propaganda is one part of it, the elections are one part of it, lawmaking is one part of it, electoral campaign is one part of it. Lahat yan actually, I think, can only be done with a movement, with hindi lang thousands, with millions of us in the field.
Thank you very much, Mr. Africa. And I think I will call on our chairman to give you, Mr. Africa. Mr. Africa, merong Taliano gold po rito. Can we ask our photographer to take a picture of, we have the awarding of certificate.
Yeah, gusto namin i-award itong certificate of appreciation. Says People's Choice Movement awards this certificate of appreciation to Mr. Sunny Africa for his valuable contribution as a resource person during the forum, Our Faith, Our Hope, choosing servant leaders and ensuring transparency in the May 2025 election, held on 5 October 2024, given this 5th day of October, at SM Mega Mall, Ortigas Center, Mandaluyong City. Signed, Chairman and President, Bonnie Gutierrez.
Thank you very much. Okay. By the way, we're on time. It's now 2:50. And our next speaker is the youngest member of our organization. He was born in 1944 from Tapas, Capiz. And wow, he's also an alumnus at the University of the country, Ateneo. And he's also a graduate of UP, UE, and up notcher in the ECE. He was Secretary of the Information Communications Telephone of the Philippines 2017-2019. He's a retired Brigadier General and Electronics Engineer. He served a while in the Armed Forces of the Philippines R&D Department, instructor at PMA. By the way, he designed missiles. He designed missiles when he was with the Electronics Division of the Armed Forces. He was also Armed Forces Attaché in Kuala Lumpur. He retired on October 27, 2000. For a while under GMA, Gloria Macapagal, he was Commissioner of NTC, National Telecommunication, and he doubled the collection of the average yearly collection of NTC. Maybe he should be with the BIR. And by the way, he was instrumental in formulating the RR, or rules and regulations, authorizing non-government entities to install telecenters. And that paved the way for call centers and PBO offices in the Philippines. We give him a big hand. No? Imagine, he started this. And he was USEC of the ICT, September 2016, Planning and Programming of Cybersecurity. He was also with the Council of COMELEC as an advisor. He has taken steps in 2018 to increase the internet speed.
Iikot na isa
He worked with the private sector for some time. Nextel Philippines, Globe Consultant, and now Corporation. And right now, he's very active as a member of the TNT, which is involved in investigating the Philippine presidential election 2022. And I think he filed, together with some of his friends, petitions. He filed petitions in the Supreme Court and the Covenant. He has been given awards, no? Bronze Cross, Medal of Bravery 2 times, Distinguished Service Star 3 times, Best Military Intelligence Group Commander, Presidential Citation under President Cory, in neutralizing coup threats in 1989 and 1990. And he is the most outstanding professional in the field of elections communications, awarded by PRC. So let's give a big hand to Brigadier General Eliseo Rio Jr.
Maraming salamat, Hector. Magandang hapon sa ating lahat. Kung matandaan nyo, siguro tayo mga senior citizens na tayo lahat dito, yung quality ng mga senators at congressman natin before martial law. Nandyan si Mang Lapos, Dirigno Aquino, Marcos, of course. Kita nyo, Jokno, kita nyo yung their quality. Magdidebate yan. Hinahangaan natin yung kanilang mga intellectual at wala pa noon nakikita ang corruption. No? Talaga yung ating mga na-elect na mga official, mga senators, congressman, presidente, no? Ay talagang masasabi natin na talagang para sa bayan natin. Hanggang dumating ang martial law. 21 years ang martial law. Ilang eleksyon ang ginawa natin ng martial law? Well, isa lang yata, no? But yes, dalawa. And then yung snap election was after ng martial law na, pero si Marcos pa rin ang presidente. So, mayroong lapse, no, from yung ating election noon. Then, mga matagal na walang election, then bigla nagkaroon ulit. And nagkaroon ng snap election na nakita rin ng may dayaan na. No? Then after 1986, nung nagkaroon tayo ng EDSA 1, nagkaroon, of course, naging revolutionary government yun. No? Then ang sunod nating election ay yung nanalo na si FDR.
Nilive ko sa sarili ko.
Pero nakikita natin na nag-dito rin red, no? Nagbababa yung quality ng ating election. In other words, nandiyan yung halogarcy at maganda yan, no? Dagdag bawas ay nangyayari. Pero yung na-elect pa rin, ay more or less
Pero okay din na kung napupunta sa rin.
kasi yung defensor, maasahan pa rin, no? Pero yung nagkaroon tayo ng automated election system, doon talaga bumagsak ang quality ng ating mga nahalan. No? Nandiyan si Robin Padilla, nandiyan yung 3 convict, no? Na preso na actually, no? Pero pinatakbo pa rin. Si Marcos, for example, convicted na yan, no? Nang hindi nagbabayad ng taxes, no? Pero pinatakbo pa rin. So kaya yung ating nakikita ngayon is because there is deterioration in our election system. At ang isang nagpasama talaga ay yung automated election system. Dahil dito, pwede nilang lukuhin ang taong bayan. No? And then, alam natin na nabibili ang posisyon ngayon. To be a governor, you need only 100 million. To be a senator, about 250 million. Bayaran mo lang ang Smartmatic, talagang papasok ka. In fact, sino nagsabi na ang Smartmatic is a cheating machine? Sino nagsabi noon? Si Bongbong Marcos yung natalo siya noong 2016. Sabi niya, palitan na natin yung Smartmatic na yan. It is a cheating system. Then si President Duterte ay nagsabi rin, palitan na natin yung Smartmatic dahil talagang nanloloko ng taong bayan. So we have that in record, no? Talagang sinasabi yan nung BBM, yung nagtakbo sa Vice President, at yung si Duterte, and nanalo siya as President, pero sabi niya, dayaan ang Smartmatic na yan. Well, bakit yung nanalo na si BBM okay ng Smartmatic? Kasi noong 2019, si Duterte na ang presidente, 2019, walang nanalo opposition. Walang kahit isa. Doon nakita nila na pwede pala nilang manipulahin. Importante itong 2022 election para kay Duterte. Gusto niya talaga na ang magiging administration, ipapalit sa kanya, ay sympathetic sa kanya. Dahil mayroon ng warrant, mayroon ng ang ICC. No? So talagang it is for his survival na kailangan ang mananalo sa 2022 election ay kakampi niya. Gusto niya sana ang anak niya. Pero hindi na, well, alam niyo naman si hindi siya nabilitahan ng tatay niya. At so, si BBM ang naging presidente, ito ay mga ginawa ng mga, mga nila Gloria Macapagal-Arroyo, nila Amy Marcos, para magkaroon ng tinatawag na unity. So wala magawa si Duterte. So to support, he has to support yung unity. No? Kasi kung manalo yung kalaban, at sinong kalaban? Si Lenny, ay siguradong makukulong siya. Ma-imbestigahan lahat yung kanyang mga corruption at lahat. No? So yan ang nangyari noong 2022. Garapalan ang pagdadaya. No? Nung mayroon ng dayaan sa umpisa nung ginamit natin yung automated election sa 2010, ngayon pa yung dayaan yan. Dahil hindi natin nakikita kung paano binibilang ng makina yung ating mga boto. No? So pwedeng actually nabebenta ng COMELEC yung mga posisyon ng mayor at sa mga local government unit. Yung 2010, 2013, and so on. Pero yung pinakagarapalang dayaan ng automated system natin ay nangyari noong 2022. Napuna kaagad natin yan doon sa pagsara ng eleksyon ng 7 p.m. ng May 9, 2022. Anong ang doon nga sa first slide? Sunod please. Next slide. Ayan. Napuna natin ang resulta. Isang oras after nagsara ang eleksyon ng 7 p.m., 8:02 p.m., nakita natin, nagpalabas ang COMELEC ng resulta ng eleksyon 1 hour after nagsara ang eleksyon. And kagad napunan natin na 20 plus million na ang nabilang, which is a record, not only the Philippines, but
Pinasave ko kayo.
sa buong mundo, sa isang oras, makapagbilang ng ganyang karami. Ang ibig sabihin niyan, 39,000, more than 39,000 na presinto ay nagpadala ng kanilang election result ng unang oras lang. No? And that is already questionable. Bakit nung unang oras ay 39,000 ang napadala or ang bilang ng boto is 20 million? Sa pangalang oras, halos kalahati na lang. Sino po rito ang kuwan sa eleksyon?
Nagbantayan.
Okay.
What's the survey?
So,
Watcher.
kitang-kita nyo talaga na sa unang oras may gagawin pa ang mga teachers, di ba? Hindi sila makatransmit kaagad. At ang pinakamatagal doon, mag-imprenta ng 8 kopya ng election returns. Okay? So, timingan nyo yung pag-imprenta niyan. It will take at least 12 minutes. No? Yan ang sa pag-imprenta. Pero maraming pang administrative matters ang gagawin ng teacher, mga teachers doon, bago makapag-transmit ng resulta. First hour, no? Sara ng 7 p.m., i-announce sila, okay, we are formally closing the election. Ang mga presinto na mayroon pang linya sa labas, hindi sila makapag-sara pa. Hanggang yung mga 30 meters away ay makapag-boto.
Mahal to pag binayaran.
Kung wala nang nagboboto before 7 p.m., hindi rin sila makasara.
Sige na.
Bakit? Hindi niya alam kung baka may dumating 1 minute before 7, no? At kung nagsara sila ng 6:30, for example, dahil wala nang pila, at may dumating before 7 na officially still, they are entitled to vote. Eh kung sarado na, you have deprived a citizen of his right to vote, and that is a criminal offense. Kaya sa instruction ng COMELEC sa lahat ng presinto natin, kahit wala ka na nakikitang magboboto, you cannot close before 7 p.m. And kung mayroon pa, 7 p.m. na, ay nakikita kayo, up to 30 meters, you have to allow them to vote. No? So, kita nyo, from nagsara ng 7, first hour, maraming pang gagawin bago yung resulta ng presinto ay matransmit. Okay? So, ang pa namin is the earliest transmission time would be around 20 minutes. No? Sara, siguro bibilangin pa nila yung mga notas, then imprenta, ibibigay pa nila yan sa mga stakeholders, at kung wala ng objection, doon lang sila makapag-transmit. So at least 20 minutes yan. So imagine, from 7:20 to 8 o'clock, which is only 40 minutes, no? 40 minutes, nakapagbilang sila ng 20 million. Habang sa second hour, na halos wala ng administrative matters na gagawin, logically, mas maraming BCM na ready to transmit sa second hour. Bakit biglang bumagsak ang na-transmit ng mga election returns? Yan ay hindi ma-explain ng COMELEC, no? So anyway, nakikita nyo rito na nagkaroon din ng tinatawag na constant vote ratio. For example, si BBM, yung unang nakita natin sa transparency server, kung i-add nyo yung mga boto ng lahat ng presidential candidate, yan ang total, no, for that first hour, for example, for that reporting period. Kung i-divide nyo ang boto na nakuha ni BBM sa first hour, 60%. Kay Lenny is 27%. And so on and so forth, no? Pero pag makita nyo, from the beginning of the count up to the last counting period ng May 13, hindi nagbago. Ang percentage na nakuha ni BBM compared to the total of all votes that were counted in that particular counting period, no? Tignan nyo rin yung kay Lenny. Kaya ang sunod ay si Pacquiao. Pero tignan nyo yung kay Isko. Walang bago. At kay Ping Lacson, 2% from the start na nag-report ang COMELEC up to the last reporting period. Walang kabago-bago, no? And that is statistically highly improbable, no? Ang sabi ng COMELEC, law of large number daw. So okay, nabigyan natin na pwede nangyari yon, na talagang ganyan ang resulta ng election natin, no? Pero questionable din yung total na nakuha ni BBM, 31 million. Bakit? Dahil nung last presidential election ng 2016, ang pinakamataas na nakuha ni Duterte is only 16 million.
16 na.
15 kay...
So, 6 years, na-double ni BBM yun. Saan nanggaling yun? 16 million na nakuha niya over and above doon na nakuha ni Duterte noong 2016. Ang registration natin, mga bagong boto, ay nag-i-increase lang ng 5% every election period. Ito, ibig sabihin, nag-increase yung bagong voters natin by as much as more than 100%. Doble, no? Kaya sila nag-register. Paano registration na yan? Pag-register sila na malaking malaki na pa-register nila para makakuha ng 31 million. And ang registration is face-to-face, no? Hindi ka pwede mag-register na online. During the registration period, COVID, yung hirap na maglakad noon. Pero paano sila nakapag-register ng more than mga 15 million in the span of, well, 6 years yan, pero yung registration ng bago occurred 2020 na. No? And that is the COVID years, 2020 to the election time 2022. Covered. COVID na yan. So, dun sinasabi sa atin ng Congress, sa 2 years na yan, na hindi pa makapag face-to-face, nakapag-register sila ng pinakamalaking new voters sa buong history ng Pilipinas. So, hanggang ngayon dito yan ma-explain, no? Next slide. So, ito ay mga nakikita natin talagang highly improbable, no? Okay. Kung i-compare natin yung mga bailiwick ng mga presidential candidates. For example, si Marcos, ang bailiwick niya is Ilocos Norte, no? Si Moreno is the seat of Manila. Si Robredo is of course the province of Camarines Norte, Sur. Si Lacson, of course, Cavite, no? And si Pacquiao is Sarangani. We expect na sa bailiwick nila, sila ang number 1 palagi, di ba? Pero kung mapunan nyo, take the case of Lacson, for example, out of the 5 bailiwick, yung Cavite ang pinakamataas na number of voters. There are 3,000 plus precinct in Cavite as compared to 822 precinct in Ilocos Norte, no? 3 times, almost 4 times. Ang mas maraming boto sa Cavite isa sa Ilocos Norte. Pero tignan niyo yung resulta. Concentrate lang tayo ito sa 5 bailiwick na yan. Sino pinakahuli? Lacson. Pero ang kanyang bailiwick is pinakamalaki sa lahat. And ano yung place ni Lacson sa Cavite? 3rd place lang siya. And sa lahat ng eleksyon, nakasama si Lacson, sinalihan ni Lacson, from the presidential election, nung kalaban niya si GMA at si Fernando Po, number 1 palagi siya. Lahat ng Senate election, number 1 palagi siya sa Cavite, except for 2022, na number 3 na lang siya. And ang masaklap pa, doon mismo sa kanyang town sa Naik, City of Naik, number 4 lang siya.
Grabe.
Ibig sabihin yung mga kamag-anak niya hindi nagboto sa kanya or something like may zero siya. May zero siya sa Naik. Which is, ito nga, ay lang ito came from the website of Comelec. No? Wala kami in-invento dito. So makita nyo na just concentrating on this 5 bailiwick, no? Yung standing ng mga kandidato nung 5 ay halos pareho doon sa standing ng national. Dapat ang standing, kung talagang logically, number 1 dapat si Lacson, no? Dito lang, sa 5 lang. Pero bakit yung standing ni Lacson dito sa 5, ang percentage niya is 2.5. Parang pareho doon sa national na 2% lang. So, another